Radio Bypass, bringing you rock and roll music that deserves to be heard. Discover new bands. Hear some old favorites on Radio Bypass.
Radio Bypass is all about playing rock and roll music that deserves to be heard and then chatting with the musicians making that great music every now and again. And today we're really excited to be talking with two members of the band Wings of Steel. Hopefully you've been checking them out on our weekly music show. Really great stuff. So please welcome Peter Halub and Leo Unnermark. Hopefully I'm pronouncing correctly, from the band Wings of Steel. How you doing, guys?
Hey man, it's great. It's great. How you doing? Good to be here.
Good. Glad to have you here. Great to meet you guys. And I really appreciate you taking some time out to tell us about Wings of Steel. I can't remember exactly how I became aware of the EP in 2022. I think I might have read a little blurb, maybe on Blabbermouth or something. I can't remember exactly how I first learned of Wings of Steel, but I do remember going to iTunes to check it out, and I listened to the little previews, and I was like, oh man, I got to download this whole thing, and I did, and I loved it. And I had read a little bit that I could find on you guys. I didn't find a lot of information at the time, but I know you two guys met studying music or something and started creating together, which I thought was cool. And that I wasn't sure, having read just that little blurb, is this going to be an ongoing thing, a band? What's going to happen? Will there be more music? And I was hoping there would. And now you guys have a brand new full-length album. So tell us about Wings of Steel. How'd you guys come together? What is the actual story? How did you guys connect?
Well, the journey started back in 2019 when me and Parker Halub met.
Or Peter, as I wrote down before.
Yes. Yeah, it's okay. It happens. And we met studying music in LA, like you said. We got together, started hanging out, talking about our favorite bands, listening to music, just having a good time together. And we decided we were going to try, and just sit down and just jam and write some tracks. And just so happened that Parker was looking to move into Hollywood. He was out here in Thousand Oaks at the time. And we were looking for a new roommate, me and my one friend. So he moved in, and we started writing. That's pretty much it. That's how we got started.
Yeah, I mean, that was 2019, and then 2020 rolled around, and everybody's kind of stuck inside. So we basically just took that time to go, and we just wrote a lot of music, and we refined our sound, and then by the time 2022 rolled around, we're like, okay, let's release these songs, and then we had the EP. And then that, we kind of built up from there, and now we have the album Gates of Twilight. So
That's awesome. I'm so glad you guys connected that way, and obviously had a good connection because the songs are great. It sounds like you guys probably had a lot in common musically to do that. And I like that I see Dokken and Dio on your guys' shirts. But that's great. So it seemed to go real well. Then when you guys met, you connected right away, started writing. Obviously this album, the EP, was just a few songs. This is a full-length thing, Wings of Steel. Was it easy? I mean, did this take much time to get these songs together? And was it only the two of you the whole time, or did you bring in other people?
Yeah, so this whole that whole Gates of Twilight album was basically written in 10 weeks.
And recorded.
Written and recorded pretty much. So basically, Leo is from Sweden, and he can only be here in the US for 90 days at a time because we don't have any kind of other visa. So he basically comes here as a tourist visa. And then we write the music. So we went and we wrote Gates of Twilight back in the summer of last year. And it pretty much worked out to about a song a week. That's how we kind of that's how it all came together. And I mean, I will also note, just being a musician, you're kind of always, you're constantly coming up with little ideas and riffs and melodies and stuff. So
absolutely.
On one hand, the album that that kind of just constant backlog of little ideas we had, like it helps to kind of keep moving things along and keep having ideas to work with. But I mean, the other, it's Wings of Steel when me and Leo sit down and it's like, okay, I got an idea. We start with that, and then the rest of the song is just like on the spot. It just kind of comes out as it is.
And it's always such an easygoing process when we sit down and we start writing, because like Parker said, we'll have voice memos and ideas just spinning around, and they're all based in different kinds of moods too. So depending on how we're feeling for the day, do we feel something slow and like heavy, or do we want something that's really like fast? And we can pick and choose a little bit, and it's always very fun. And sometimes you do both in one song. There's no rules. We do not like rules when it comes to that.
Well, I kind of gathered that, because as I was saying to you guys before we started, when I listened, especially to the album, and I noticed it a little bit on the EP too, but more on the album, you guys really do take a lot of style of hard rock and metal and kind of bring it all into the songs, some within one song, and then certainly across the course of the album. And man, Leo, you sing way up there. You sing way up there. And I hear so much Jeff Tate in your vocals. So obviously I'm sure he was an influence, but who else influenced you as a singer?
It's interesting, I get a lot of comparisons to Jeff Tate, and we get Crimson Glory, TNT,
Crimson Glory.
And it's funny because I totally get it, because I think what we have in common, like me and vocalists such as that, is that we use a similar kind of vocal technique, and we have clean voices to begin with when we sing. So that's kind of how it comes out, because I have inspirations and influences that are far more impactful than any of these guys have, actually. And though I do like Queensryche, I think they're an absolute amazing band. I think for me, artists such as Paul Rodgers and David Coverdale and Dio, obviously, and those guys have had such a profoundly huge impact on me. And so I think it's kind of funny how it can sound one way and there's actually like another thing to it. And all great comparisons, great artists,
all of them for sure. But it's interesting, Rodgers and Dio, and because those are, and David Coverdale, a little more gritty type vocal, right? And
right.
A little lower. So I'm surprised your singing doesn't sound a little more like that then.
Yeah, I mean, that said too, because we do have aspects of it. And before Wings of Steel, I've been in more bands and done different types of things. It's just fun to be able to utilize your full range, and so you can write higher stuff. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Bruce Dickinson, Rob Halford, those guys too, and it's fun to be able to take bits and pieces from everything and mash it together. And that's why we get so many different types of aspects in our hard rock heavy metal, is because there's so much to take from. There's so much beauty out there in these genres, and it would be so limiting to only try and do one thing,
I think that was just to kind of add to that, like a cool thing that we were able to do with this album, because we have more tracks, is you have like a song like Garden of Eden or Slave of Sorrows, and you get to like use those lower registers in your voice, whereas like you can't really do that on a song like Wings of Steel, where it's all just up there the entire time. But
different types of tracks.
It's not just the vocals, it goes across every instrument in the band, and every the songs itself. There's a lot of different like styles, and there's a lot of different ranges, and we're kind of just getting started with a lot of this stuff, so it's cool.
And it's great too in like a live aspect, because when you play live, you have a couple of songs that are really high energy and like way up there and stuff like that, and you'll have some that are still like powerful but kind of using different parts of your instrument. And
and there's even hints of progressive rock, progressive metal in your music as well. That's what I was telling you guys. It's just so interesting to me what you guys are doing. And then so those are great influences on you vocally. What about you for guitar, Parker?
I mean, it is a thing where there's a lot of guys that I've listened to, and it's a point I like to make when I get asked this. Is like, I think there's a distinction to be made between an influence and an inspiration. So a guy like I'd say a guy like Jimmy Page, right? And he's a really common one for a lot of guitar players. He was very inspiring to watch. I don't I mean there's a little bit, but I don't like take a lot of like things directly from his playing. Uh,
Mhm.
but like just his whole approach and his style and his vibe and everything, like that was very inspiring to me. But you know, some like notable ones I really like is we like Michael Schenker, John Norum, John Sykes, Neil Schon, George Lynch, Rowan Robertson. Um, I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah,
That's a
those
few
are those
notable
are
ones.
all good choices. Well, don't forget
Yeah.
Gary Moore, though. You got to
Gary
play
Moore,
Gary
yeah,
Moore.
yeah.
You guys are such young guys. How did you, all of your influences are guys that were pounding away and were new when I was a young guy. How did you guys come to discover both the guitar people you mentioned and the vocalists you mentioned? What brought young people like you to that music?
So I'll have to blame that one on my parents, on my upbringing. I remember when I was just like 3, 4 years old. I remember sitting on my dad's shoulders, and he was jumping around, and like these blues records would be playing, Jan Mayle and the Blues Breakers, BB King, all this stuff, which had a big impact on me as I'm coming up to my teens, because I'm raised on this blues kind of stuff. And then guys like Paul Rogers is just like the transition point into like the hard rock aspect with Free and Bad Company. So it kind of just transitioning really well. We all know that, heavy metal, hard rock, it stems from the blues.
Right.
So having those transitional artists like Led Zeppelin and Paul Rogers, and it really helped me that way. And then obviously you go on and you explore more stuff as you discover your own kind of identity and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I wasn't quite as fortunate with having parents with such great musical taste. I kind of I mean, growing up, you get little bits and pieces, like, your parents listen to the radio and you hear all like the big, hits and stuff like that. But for me, when I was 8 years old, I discovered the song "Separate Ways" by Journey, and then from there, I got really into that, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. And then I discovered like Metallica and Iron Maiden, and I kind of like just very like gradually started to like discover these bands, and it kind of just grew and took off from there. But it was definitely interesting because I like, my parents weren't really, I mean, they know a little bit, but they didn't really fuel a lot of, they weren't like, hey, check out this record.
Right.
Um, and I didn't really have any friends growing up out here who were into that stuff. They're all listening to what people our age listen to. So,
That's why I'm always intrigued by that, because
but yeah,
it's not,
but it
you
was
guys aren't doing Taylor Swift music.
yeah, but it just kind of just blossomed out of that. And living in the day and age of the internet, you can go and you go on YouTube and you find this one band, and then you see it shows you another. You're like, oh, what's this? And you're like, oh shit, this is really cool. So yeah, it kind of just blossomed from there.
And I feel like both me and Parker, we're not done exploring all this stuff yet, and that I think that's also part of why it sounds the way it does on the albums,
Mhm.
because there's still stuff I want to do, and stuff that Parker wants to incorporate, and you can't fit everything onto one record. But what you want to have is you want to develop a sound that is uniquely you, so that no matter what type of song it is, it's still Wings of Steel, and it's very obvious that it's still Wings of Steel going on.
And
Right.
I mean, I will say to that too, like that is kind of the never-ending journey of both being a fan of music and being a musician. Is you're always finding new inspirations, and you're always finding new stuff that's sparking your creativity, and that's kind of the beauty of it too.
Mhm.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. And I agree with what you said about, making it your own too, because all this music we're talking about, it was so cool back in the day, because you instantly, like within a second, certain vocalists, certain guitar players, you knew right away every time. It could be a brand new song, but you're like, oh, that's Michael Schenker's guitar. It's
Right.
his sound. Or that's Paul Rogers' vocal, no matter who he was with, if it was playing with Jimmy Page and the Firm, or
Oh yeah,
Great or Bad Company,
yeah.
you always know it's him. And I do think some of today's music It's bringing back the hard rock and heavy metal and all that. I think some of the musicians are missing that point. I do hear a lot that they're really, 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 really proficient players, and they're really good at making a great sounding song, but it doesn't have their personality in it. It's got your influences personality in it only. So down the road, you're not going to necessarily pick out immediately, oh, that's a Wings of Steel song, because it doesn't have its own unique sound to it. So I think you're right on the money that that's an important factor as you guys continue this journey together, which it sounds like with the success you've had already, as far as I'm concerned, with this EP and this album, I think you guys will be making a lot of great music for a long time to come. I hope, anyway.
Thank you. We want to.
Now let's talk a little bit about the new record. Because I'm also curious, did you guys record this together? I mean, this wasn't done via Zoom or something. This was done in a studio together. Mm-hmm. Because it's got and did you guys produce this yourselves, the two of you, or what? Because it's got a really, really well produced sound to it that I also find lacking in some of today's recordings. This has a really, really full sound to it and a good sound. Did you guys do all this yourselves?
I guess it depends on how you look at production, because in terms of production, we were actually the people who came up with all the parts and put all the production into it. We do work with a mixing mastering engineer,
Mr. Damien Renaud.
Yes, who's a great guy to work with. He works with Dragon Force, Fear Factory, Angra, those bands, and we're able to tell them what we're going for, go back and forth, and we're able to get that sound that we also think has that kind of hard to touch upon kind of thing. It's very hard to describe. It's that kind of essence thing, that we want to have bring forth in our sound, which usually you only get in a live setting in a stadium,
right.
But yeah, we made everything together from out here in Thousand Oaks with a new album, that is, and it's recorded down in our studio that used to be a bomb shelter, actually, that we converted into a studio.
It's already got built-in soundproofing then, right?
The underground comes from the underground, man.
Yeah, I mean everything except for the drums, because our space isn't big enough to record a drum set. So we went to a local studio out here and we got those done. But yeah, all the vocals and guitars and bass and everything, it was all done here on our own. So it was a pretty nothing too crazy. It's not like we were going to this one studio to do this one thing and it's like, no, we just did everything we could here, did the rest at a studio, and then got it mixed, and that was it.
Good. Well, kudos to all you guys too, because too many of today's tracks are just so compressed to make them louder, and it kills some of the tonal qualities of the music to my ears. Yeah. Maybe not everybody would agree with me, but when I heard this, I was so pleasantly surprised that it's a modern day production, but it doesn't have that, let's just make the WAV file one big fat thing and compress the hell out of it. This has the nuances that I appreciate in music, and that all music used to be recorded like, and now today, not so much. So I was curious if you guys were responsible for that. And then let's talk a little bit about the song. So the two that intrigued me the most out of the gate, and like I told you guys, I'm still digesting this record, and we'll be playing it on our weekly music shows till we run out of songs, till we've played them all. But early on, She Cries was one that caught my attention a lot, and then Leather and Lace was the other one that caught my attention early on, and then after that, probably Garden of Eden. So, but let's talk about She Cries. What inspired that song?
So in terms of the lyrics for the song, it's kind of like a darker song in a sense that it's about domestic violence, in a relationship, and it's about this girl who's in that kind of thing, and kind of her journey through that to the other side of it. And so yeah, just knowing that, you can listen to the lyrics and you'll kind of get the story behind it. But yeah, that's kind of where that came from. And the lyrics were written after the song, after the music.
Yeah, I mean the music is kind of it's like a part. Like we wanted to like slow something down and have something cleaner because we were talking about earlier, like getting to use different dynamics and use different registers in his voice and everything. And it's kind of cool, just another atmosphere to, have the sound in. So we did that, and then it kind of just morphed into this big, like fast, really heavy thing in the middle of it, which was a lot of fun. And then it kind of comes back down. But
Right.
It's great because when you get a track like that that has all these dynamics in it, it's very fun to write lyrics on top of it because you build your story based on that. That's why I fuck with this guy so much,
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. And then what about leather and lace? What were you guys thinking there?
So that's kind of not quite opposite, but it's just very right to the point. We as we talked about earlier too, like we love blues, and we have a heavy blues influence, and that was us just taking it, and running with it. So
yeah, listen to like the 70s rock and stuff like that, and even the 80s bands such as Great White. That's like it's part of like the hair band era, but definitely on the bluesy side.
Sure.
And all these things that they kind of come out, and in terms of like lyrical content for that thing, it's like that one and the song Wings of Steel from the EP are pretty like straightforward songs in terms of that they're doing something that's quite expected. You got the Wings of Steel is kind of a new wave of British heavy metal type tune, and then Leather and Lace is a pretty straight on like 80s blues metal kind of thing. Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where we like to write with as little or as much depth as we choose to, and that's just, sometimes it's fun to just do something straight and just get right to it, and that's it.
Yeah, I feel like we write these songs that it's kind of hard to put them in a very easy to define pocket, and then sometimes you go, but what if we did like one of these songs? I wonder how that would sound, like with with your guitar playing, my voice, and let's try one of those things. And that ended up being Leather and Lace, and that's probably the song we wrote the quickest too.
That was a very quick one.
We wrote and recorded that one in
like 2 days. 2 days. Yeah, really.
That is quick. And the first song, I'll just ask you about one more song from it. This was the first one I played on the show because at that moment that was the one I liked the best. Cry of the Damned. What about that tune?
Well, this is a little interesting backstory. So we were hanging out, and like he was like in the bathroom or taking a shower or doing something. I'm just sitting in the room, playing guitar, and he just runs. He's like, dude, and he's like, here, like sing this or play this like melody thing. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So we had got like that little like thing in the intro, and I was like, all right. And then from there, the rest of the song kind of built out. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun track. It's got a good, like, powerful, it's got a good chorus and a, fun solo section. I think it's very, like, it's very driving. And
it's got the chorus is kind of easy to catch on. I think it's fun how some songs come to be like that, whether it's just a melody that comes to your hand or a rhythm or something. Sometimes I'll hear Parker sit here, play guitar. I'll be in the kitchen or something, and I'll hear just this little thing, and I'll come running, I'll be like, dude, go back and play what you just played, and phone goes up, start humming and shit, and next thing you know, I got Wings of Steel third release out,
Excellent. Unless you get one of those, I don't know what I just did. I was just noodling around.
That happens too. A lot of work has gone lost that way.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, and then from the EP, I think I liked all of it, but I think Storm Child was probably my favorite from that one. Tell us a little bit about that song.
So that song is it's a very special song in the history of this band because we actually wrote that song back in like March of 2020. That's
right when COVID was really becoming known. Huh?
Like right when it kicked off. But yeah, because I mean, we had written several other songs together up until that point, but I think like after we wrote that song, that was when we're like, oh, we've stumbled upon something much grander than we expected to. But yeah, I mean, it's the it's the riff and it's the heaviness combined with the open chorus, and I got to do like a cool little acoustic guitar solo on there, and yeah, I mean, it's a great track. I think it really it captures a lot of the essence of what we do.
I think it was probably the first song where it had something where it felt like you were kind of being taken on a journey, because you know, even though we're the ones writing it, we would never put something out that we're not like digging ourselves, you know. And the
Right.
big part of what makes this thing what it is the fact that, at least to us when we listen to it, it kind of feels like it's taking you on a journey. So you mentioned you have the little acoustic thing in there. It kind of makes me feel like, oh, like deserty and stuff like that, and then it kind of moves on to the next thing, and then the ending is just this. It's
I mean, it's not to like, you know, we wrote other stuff before that you know we like too, but I think when it was just like something like switched after like we entered like a new phase or something, it was when we wrote that song. So I think it worked out really cool that's the first song on the
we grew some
EP.
hair on our chest.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I tell you, you guys are pretty accomplished already for such young guys. The synergy you two have must really be special to be able to create all this. Sounds like you guys are really in a good pocket together. But now when you bring in, I know you said you did have somebody else playing the drums. Did you handle bass,
Yes.
the bass on these tracks too?
Yes.
Okay, and then you brought in a drummer. Did you guys have to chart this all out, or what did you do with that?
So what we do actually is when we basically just write and demo the whole and record everything all in just one kind of gradual process. So we'll sit here and we'll write out the song and then get like a structure. Then we'll record some guitars and bass, vocals, whatever. And then what we do is we actually there's software where you can write out like the drum part, and you can program it so you have like a reference drum track in the demo. So we basically write out the drum parts, and then we have the drummer come in and record those. And I mean, they're not like you know, there's tiny little nuances, and there's stuff that a real drummer does that you can't, like, it's too tedious to try to write in there. But we get all the, you know, this part, you're doing this kind of groove, you're doing this fill here. You know, we're pretty exact in what we want in the music.
That's an amazing amount of thought you put into it without having, you know, I'm so used to the old way, you know, you have the drummer maybe throwing some ideas in. You're playing a riff, you come up with a vocal part. Oh, maybe this would sound good with, you know, I'm working it all together that way. You guys are envisioning the whole thing start to finish, is pretty cool. So given that you are the bassist and the guitarist on the recordings, do you have somebody? I mean, is there any live shows for you guys? I mean, are you able to get out there and play? Do you have people to play with?
Yeah, so our you know, we have a full band when we play live, and that lineup is Mr. Mike Mayhem on the drums, who is the guy on both the releases. Then we have Mr. Stefan Jean Baillet on the rhythm guitar, and then we have Mr. Johnny Schenkel on the bass.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's live band.
Yes.
Got it. And are there any dates coming up? You guys going out to do anything to support the record?
Yeah, so we did one at the Viper Room in Hollywood not too long ago, and we got one more coming up now, which is going to be on July 5th. It's a headline show at the Whiskey A Go Go.
Okay.
So we're gonna do that. Yeah, we're gonna do that one, and that's probably gonna be it for this year in terms of shows. And then next year we're heading over to Germany to play the Keep It True festival, and we're looking to book more shows around that one.
Awesome. Well, that's exciting. I'm not sure I can make that July 5th date, though. I wish you guys were doing a little bit more this year.
We do too.
As well,
we do
yeah.
too.
This record deserves the support too. It's such an excellent album. And speaking of that, where can people get the record?
So the record is available. Well, first digitally, it's on every single platform imaginable: the Spotify, YouTube, Apple, Amazon, Deezer, wherever you're listening. And then the physical copy is available directly through us on our Bandcamp page. So that's bandcamp.com/Wings of Steel. And
where you will also find some merch and some cool cool package deals and stuff.
Yes.
I'll be looking. All right. Well, that's good. All right. So live July 5th, Whiskey A Go Go, legendary in good old West Hollywood. And then what was the date in Germany, did you say?
So that's the Keep It True Festival in Germany.
It's in April. I'm not entirely sure.
I forget the exact
right
date that it is on.
That's a long ways away, that one, huh?
Yeah, it's a little ways out.
So that's April 2024. Okay. All right, well, that's cool. All right, guys. Is there anything else that we should talk about? Is there anything else we should know about Wings of Steel that we didn't cover?
I guess on the note of the CDs too, since you have listeners in Europe and around the world, and
international shipping is a good question.
Exactly, yeah, that can get quite expensive, and we know about this. So we have set up some. We do wholesale to a few retailers in Europe. We wholesale to Underground Power Records in Germany, to
Witch's Brew in Germany. Steel Fortress in Switzerland. And then for Japan, we have SA Music, Rock Stack Records, and Rock Avenue Records. So wherever you are in the world, you may be able to find our CDs available through any of these outlets.
Excellent. Glad you mentioned that. I always forget about the international shipping thing.
Yeah. It's a lot to handle. And then we have a music video coming out pretty shortly here. We're not going to go ahead and say for which song yet, but it should be coming out the end of this month or early next month.
It will be for a song off of the new album.
It will.
Yes, as it should be. Should.
Yes.
All right, well, that's great. Okay. Anything else that we missed? You guys are on social media, right?
We're on Facebook and Instagram. Those are the two big ones.
We have like 3 followers on our TikTok. That's great.
Oh yes, and we're on TikTok as well.
No,
I've not gotten into the TikTok thing, so I won't be following you.
We haven't really either. So
I forget how to log in. It's okay. But yeah, other than that, as always, thank you guys so much. If you've heard about us before, you listen to our music, really appreciate all the support. And we look forward to getting the opportunity to meet you in a venue near you as soon as made possible logistically.
Yes. I will say, check out the new album, Gates of Twilight. And if you haven't already, the debut EP, Wings of Steel. Let us know what you think of these tracks. We love to hear what we have. Some people saying, Liar in Love is their favorite, She Cries is their favorite, Into the Sun. It's like, it's so cool for us to hear like what people think of the different songs, and yeah, it's great. But yeah, crank it up, tell your friends. Wings of Steel, man.
And I second everything that he just said. You got to check this band out if you haven't really paid much attention to them yet. You need to. Again, rock and roll music that deserves to be heard is what I like to say, and you guys definitely are making music that deserves to be heard. So yes, please, everybody, check out Wings of Steel. So at the end of this, as we're wrapping up here, I would like to add a song to the end of this interview. And since I've already picked out a couple that I've played, I thought I'd let you guys pick one out. So from Gates of Twilight, what would you guys want me to add to the end of this?
I feel like I would like to throw in a song that we're not currently doing in our live set, and that's not like the first 4 songs on the album. My vote would be for Lady of the Lost.
I think Lady of the Lost is a good choice. I would also throw in Into the Sun.
Do both.
You do both. Oh, great.
Let me just write down your choices here. So Lady of the Lost and Into the Sun, you said?
Yes.
Okay. All right, everybody. So we're going to wrap this chat up right now. And I want to thank you guys for coming on and telling us about your band. I'm really excited. From the moment I found you last year, I've been in love with what I've been hearing and enjoy listening to it in my car because, I like hearing it. So really glad that we're able to connect because I was trying to figure out how I could reach out to you even last year to learn more about the band. So I'm really glad we were able to connect and get together. So thank you for that. And everybody stick around now. We'll go in order of how we just said the song. So coming up right now from Wings of Steel, brand new record, Gates of Twilight. We're going to start out with Lady of the Lost. And then right after that, you'll hear Into the Sun. Thanks again, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, man.